and we're at Black Brick in Sandton, around the time of Meetings Africa. And one of those times I met Bruce. He was running around doing the most amazing job of introducing everybody with the right spelling and the right pronunciation, and the media introductions to the big shots. And I was in awe of him. I just thought, this man is amazing. He's able to pronounce all these names. So welcome, Bruce Davidson, CEO of BLD Group. It was such a pleasure to meet you at that time, and I think it was a few years ago now.
It's been a while. We met at Tourism Indaba. I did the media centre at Tourism Indaba for 17 years.
Wow.
And it was an incredible contract. We had a break in between, but we were pulled back into it. And we saw the development not only of Indaba into this incredible African and global showcase for tourism and for South Africa in particular, but what we also saw was the change in the way the media were working and thinking. And we started off with a group of about 800 journalists that we used to host at the media centre. And a lot of them were hosted media, came from all over the world, brought in by South African tourism. So the pressure was on because the brief was simple. Make sure the media were very happy, make sure that they covered Indaba to the best of their ability and got what they needed to cover Indaba, and made sure, especially the hosted media, went back and sold South Africa as an incredible destination. So when we used to set up and brief staff, and we had a very interesting staff composition, it was a deal that I'd struck with SA Tourism that my team would be complemented by the best media, PR, and tourism students in the province. So we used to write to all the tertiary education departments and institutions and say to them, this is an opportunity for you to give us your best students, and we would train them, let them work at Indaba, and walk away with a letter from ourselves and SA Tourism saying they had participated in Indaba, and it helped them with their studies and their degrees and diplomas. And what we really wanted to do was make sure that they understood how media thought, how they worked, and how they needed to be treated. I've got a very strong policy that you've got to look after media. You've got to put them at the paramount of your priorities, because they are the ones that are going to deliver for you and for the client. And if they don't become friends, and friends is a wide word, but if they don't become friends, you're not going to get them to help you with your mandate. And that's exactly what we were doing, and I think we did a good job.
Oh, I think you did an amazing job.
And we
loved you to bits when you left. We all said, well, we're not coming back next year. This place is a disaster.
Well, things do change, and South Africa changed. And we understand that we were blessed for 17 years of Indaba. We went into Meetings Africa for a couple of years. And I see that as a very important phase of the development of our company, because we were mainly sport and have developed into entertainment, but tourism was always a very, very big attraction to me, because my history goes back to when I left school. I didn't know what to do, and I eventually ended up studying hospitality. So,
oh my goodness!
Yeah, and I really enjoyed hospitality, and I was headhunted out of the hospitality industry into tennis. Tennis is my first love, and other sporting codes have become my other loves, like netball and women's athletics. I'm a big champion of women's sport. And so hospitality is always going to be in my blood. And I've always remembered that when I left, I was called into a meeting by the famous hotelier, Bruno Corte, and John van Rooyen, who's since retired from the Southern Sons Group. And they asked me, why are you leaving? I mean, we really need you to stay not only in the Southern Sons, but we need you to stay in hospitality. And I just felt that this calling to tennis by the former South African Tennis Union, and this was in the bad dark days of apartheid, tennis was one of the top 3 sports in the country, and they approached me to be a regional director, and I loved it so much that to now work and earn money doing tennis every day.
Really.
It was so. And in fact, when I took the job on as regional director, I actually went down in package to what Southern Sons were paying and what they promised. But I really loved tennis, and I loved sport, and It was just the move that I made. But it was a great move because that's what I still do
And look
now.
where you are now.
And I just love it. It's just an absolute passion for me. I've been blessed to work with some incredible sporting codes at some incredible events, not only in South Africa, but around the world, and meet the most amazing people. And I think the highlight is working with some of the world's biggest and best sportsmen that have made a huge impact on not only the sporting world, but society in general, like Rafael Nadal, who I've worked so closely with since he was 11 years old. And he is an inspiration to everybody, not only a sportsman, but you walk in the streets and you just talk about Rafael Nadal, you talk about Roger Federer, you talk about people like Tiger Woods, who went through the most, but is still there and is still an inspiration. To have worked with those people, Serena Williams, these are big names, and they are so inspiring to not only me and my family, but to life in general. The struggles that they've been through, the amount of effort they have to put in to stay at the top. And I think we learn a lot of lessons from those type of people. So that's been a big inspiration in my career.
I think you've done an amazing job because I watch you on Facebook. I'm very fortunate to be on your Facebook page. So whenever I look, it's you somewhere in the world. I mean, the traveling is obviously also a gift because I know that wherever you are, you make the most of where you are because your photos are always fun and lovely to. Oh, he's there and he's in Spain and he's in New York and he's having fun.
That's a very important question and a good one. Travel expands the mind.
Absolutely.
I've been to, I think we worked it out the other day, 171 countries in my lifetime, which is a lot.
I've only been to 84, so I'm close.
well, I just have had to go back to a lot of countries, like the Grand Slams in tennis. They're only in the 4 big major cities of New York, London, Paris, and Melbourne. So you have to go back every year.
Absolutely.
So you don't really expand. But I was very blessed to travel with sport to a lot of countries, all continents. And when my daughter was born, Amy, I made it very clear to my ex-wife, Linda, who's been a huge part of my success story, and the companies. I said to her, we've got to let Amy travel, because that is how she's going to become who she is today. And I remember we made a decision to send her to a Montessori preschool because we knew that they were free and the education was free-spirited. And they said to us that you can take her out any time to travel with you anywhere in the world, because when she comes back, her brief would be to tell all the other students where she's been and what she's learned.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then she moved to another school, and I'm not going to mention the school, but that became problematic because they didn't want her to travel with us. And she said, Dad, I'm missing out on these trips. And I said, well, you're at the school and they don't want you to travel. And she actually made the decision without us that she was going to leave that school and go into homeschooling. And we said, but we can't teach you, we're too busy. She said, no, I found a homeschooling center that I'm going to go to. And they said, when I spoke to them, that I could travel because it was important for my growth.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was blessed that I had a daughter that learned from what I was doing. I must say, Linda didn't like to travel too much. She's a South African home girl. She loves to walk into the house and play with the dogs. But I travelled, and Amy has travelled a lot with me. So, on Facebook, my Facebook is always a contentious issue, not only with clients, but also with my daughter. She says I post too much. But
but you don't. But I think a lot of people kind of do the Facebook is such a bad place. And I'm thinking, you make it a bad place. But it can be a place of extraordinary pleasure for people who cannot travel, bedridden, elderly, and they look at your pictures and they live your life by watching you.
Well, I do find that a lot, that people are inspired by my way of life.
So, absolutely.
Not maybe me as a person, but just the way I live my life.
Yeah,
and I have always been a firm believer that age is just a number. I'm 60 years of age and I don't feel 60.
You cannot be younger than me. I'm not allowed.
well, I don't believe, age is just a number. So I don't worry about age. And I do believe that, you've got to expand as you get older, especially because you can kind of going to a stagnant stage in your life.
But you also get to meet other creeds and cultures.
Promise
and I think you
it's
become a lot more
amazing.
What's the word? You become a lot more able to deal with people on different levels and different walks of life. Because you meet with so many cultures, you've got a lot, you kinder, because you think, okay, they don't think like me, that's okay. But
True.
if you've never travelled, you don't know how to integrate somebody else's life with yours.
Yeah. Well, I've got a philosophy, and let's use South Africa as an example. First of all, I don't believe South Africans, especially white South Africans, are experiencing true South Africa. I do believe that we have the most beautiful beaches, we have beautiful mountains, we have the world one country. It was a slogan that SA Tourism used for many years, but that changed. But I do believe that the tourist that comes to South Africa would get more out of their trip if they discovered the cultures that we offer, because we are so diverse as a country. It hurts me when I go down to Cape Town or I spend time at home in Johannesburg and I go on a Saturday or Sunday to a groove in Soweto, which I enjoy. I love the vibe. That there's not too many white people around me. I've got this nickname of being Mlungu by all the people that I hang around with. And I just find that when I'm in Cape Town and I go on a Sunday afternoon to Rands in Khayelitsha, it's just the most amazing experience. And I don't have to be there until 6 a.m. I just go there for a few hours, but I'm so uplifted by how Black South Africa have managed to entertain themselves. And we forced that, white South Africa forced that. We just didn't allow them to be part of our structures. But now white South Africans say to me, was it safe? Were you safe? I'm saying, guys, it is safer than everything. I go in there, they look after my car, they even wash it. When I come out, it's washed. I mean, I just can't believe it. And I just think that South Africans need to broaden a little bit their minds.
Well, I mean, my car broke down in Soweto because I went to go help a fellow presenter. He was struggling with online radio, and I'm fairly clued up, so went off to help him. And my car broke down. The clutch went, and I've got a little Fiat. And I'm taking photos, and I put them on Facebook, and I'm like, guys, this is where I'm stuck. Check it, the goat's crossing the road. And they're going, oh my God, you're in Soweto. I said, yes, and the problem is, and they said, but aren't you scared? I said, well, if the guards are anywhere, they're in Sandton taking your car.
Yeah. I think we have to be real. Janine, we have to be real. South Africa is challenged.
It's very challenged.
In that
state. But
I really do believe that, we have got such an amazing amount of cultures in South Africa. I mean, we've got 11 official languages.
And I mean, the sporting events bring them together. And look how sporting events brings rugby. If you look at rugby, look at the stands now.
Absolutely.
The stands are crowded with all kinds of walks of life. It's a
beautiful.
Wonderful thing.
Nelson Mandela hit the nail on the head when he said, and it was a very big part of his whole integration of white and black South Africa, and that whole movie. But we've seen it a lot in sport events that are running all over. We're seeing how people are pulling together. The most recent one was the Momentum Proteas getting to the final of the T20 Women's World Cup.
I mean, how awesome was that?
40,000 sold out, record crowds at Newlands. And I've been a champion of women's sport for so long. I've been involved in netball, women's tennis, bowls, hockey, athletics.
But you must admit, Banyana, going to Turkey during the earthquake was a bit challenging.
I agree, but I actually, just before they left, I actually was at a function with Desiree Ellis, the coach, and they had to play somewhere, and they had to play before the World Cup. Because remember, this...
But couldn't they play in a non-earthquake shipping country?
There was nothing available to them. That they were so restricted when it came to tournaments where they could get match play, which is so critical for any team going into a World Cup. And remember, in 2023, we've got so many World Cups. We've got the Netball World Cup in July and August in Cape Town. We've got the Women's Soccer World Cup. We've had the T20. It's an amazing opportunity for women. And they had to travel and they had to play, because without competition before a World Cup, without hard-fought matches, and we've just done the Indoor Hockey World Cup, which
That's right,
was in Pretoria, those teams were getting up at 6 or 5 in the morning to go and play practice matches before play started, because there's only one indoor court and it had to be shared by all these countries. And I realized the importance then, in all my years of sport, that was where I realized the importance of a team or an individual playing actual matches, not just practicing before they go into competition proper, because then it fined Group 7. That's why I think they had to go to Turkey and take the invite up. But at the end of the day, it's the way it is.
And they certainly do better than Bafana.
Yeah, but going back to that, I just feel that South Africa embraced the cricketers. We sold out 40,000 on a couple of days.
Absolutely.
And I just believe that not only women's sport, but I think sport in general is now being embraced by more South Africans. And yes, sport is a unifier. It definitely is a unifier. And I've seen it firsthand.
And I think I just cannot believe that you've been involved with mostly women's sport, because I've watched the Smart Athletics, Smart Netball, and I see the Netball World Cup is coming here in.
Yes, we're so excited. In the first time the Netball World Cup is coming to Africa. It'll be in Cape Town in July and August. It is just such a global showpiece. 16 of the world's top nations in the world are coming. In fact, the Netball World Cup, after the Olympic Games, a Soccer World Cup, is one of the biggest World Cups of any sporting code. So they're expecting about 400,000 visitors into Cape Town. It's a lot. I know that already.
Are they going to be playing in Joburg at all?
No, they just play at the...
Hopefully you'll use Black Brick in Cape Town.
Well,
for a booking.
Well, there is a hotel group that has signed as the official, hotel chain of the World Cup, and I know that they've got a couple of properties in Cape Town, but it doesn't stop any team staying anywhere, because they can't.
And it'd be awesome if some of the visitors come in to watch the match. We'd stay there as a visitor.
Well, Black Brick must get onto the bandwagon and start promoting their properties and their uniqueness, because it's an opportunity for everybody, and that's what World Cup's all about. We've just seen the Formula E, which brought in a lot of people into Cape Town. It was a weekend.
And what happened when it was load shedding? Was the cars able to get charged?
They all have a backup plan. But that's a challenge.
Did you see how much we smile about things like that?
But it is a challenge. I mean, coming here, I was going to come and have a chilled coffee and prepare, and I got here 10 minutes later than I planned, because we were challenged. That's the way it is, and it's sad that South Africa is going through that, because it's such a beautiful country with so much opportunity. We need to get above those things, because it is going to be a challenge encouraging business, encouraging sporting events, encouraging tourism when we are faced with these challenges, because with this electricity problem we've got for many years, things become more dangerous.
But I also think, Bruce, I'm a South African, and in fact, the guy who came out here from CNN, Richard, he said one of the things that completely blew him away was the South Africans' ability to deal with every hurdle they throw at us. And I thought, yes, you're right, we actually do that, sometimes to our detriment, because we just accept. But I also think the world has to change the way it works. We cannot keep digging coal out the earth. We're eventually going to go through coal and not have an earth, because there won't be anything left. But if we can continue to harness, like we harness the sun now for solar power, we harness other things that we can change the way we live. It forces us to change the way we live. And we've just done it. We've gone off the grid. We have borehole water, we have a water heater, we have solar power, and we built a log home. So we don't need all that stuff but I mean, we're in isolation. We can't change the robots, and we can't change the infrastructure of the country. But I also think, you know what, maybe it's time to change the world's thinking and saying, guys, we all need to go solar. We all need to try and make an impact. And I know it's expensive right now, but maybe if there's somewhere, listen, I'm not what do they call those people?
We're so late in all of this.
I know we are.
We have been speaking about this for years.
I know.
Former Deputy President of the United States, Gore, he warned the world about this.
Yeah.
And he was not lukewarm was their reception to what he said. And people didn't think that this would happen. And now it's reality.
And now it's a reality.
You know,
and
global warming is a very big reality. I was in the Seychelles, and I was staying in a guest house in the Seychelles, owned by former South Africans, and they said they don't think they'll be around for 5 more years. They think that Seychelles is going to be underwater in 5 years' time. One of the most beautiful set of islands in the world, which is the favorite destination of so many Italians, so many French, so many celebrities. They don't believe they're going to be around. We've seen it with the Maldives. The Maldives are going through a huge scare at the moment, and 17 of their top properties are probably in 3 years' time going to have to close because the water levels are so high. So this reality is coming through.
But maybe that's what puts us ahead of the pack. Because of the challenges we faced, we actually have to be ahead.
We've got a lot to go. You know, if I drive through from the west to the centre of Joburg, you know, driving through different municipal boundaries, municipalities should be the forefront in helping their communities get going. I mean, our municipalities are so in debt. And it's a big problem because you know, traffic lights should go solar so that we can still run to meetings at.
Correct.
For me to now leave an hour and a half earlier for a meeting,
means you've lost an hour.
I've lost an hour of work. And I know virtual is a big thing, and we've all learned how to do things virtual, but not everything is possible virtually.
No, I agree.
You see, and there's nothing more. I've done better deals face to face than I have virtually.
Me too.
It's just better. So I think
there's a chat now. This is where someone like Blackbrick, and I'm just using it as an example. I set up a series of meetings. I move into a hotel environment like this where there's workspace, and it's an apart hotel. I just come here for 3 days, do everything I have to do in this area because everybody's around me. And then I get to see the best of South Africa because I've then drive to Northern Natal and I see a couple of clients there. Well, I'm seeing the animals outside my window. I then do all my meetings in Northern Natal. So I'm fortunate, more fortunate than most. I mean, I'm always talking about myself in isolation. But I wish the rest of South Africa could, but they can't. They have to drive to work every day. They've got to be able to.
Well, in my office environment, I've realised that I don't need my staff in the office every day.
No.
They're working from home. It's saving on transport. It's saving on time, and they appreciate it.
And I also think from a production point of view, I think you get a fair amount of production out of that.
I think you do, but the one thing that South Africans do lack, which unfortunately I have to bring to light, is discipline. There are segments of our society that do lack discipline, and unfortunately, when you do, as an executive like myself, have to make a decision on your company staff working from home, you have to call them in and tell them that this is serious discipline because nobody's watching over your shoulder. So you're staying at home 2 or 3 times a week, coming into the office for the other 2 days, and there is nobody watching you. We are totally relying, and I'm not one that's going to have devices.
The micromanagement, absolutely.
I can't. You've got to do your work and you get it done properly. I think there's a lot of companies that have done that, and I think it works for some. And I've had some staff that have had to stop that policy because they haven't been disciplined and they haven't been contactable when we need them and they're supposed to be working. And so
it's not a good time to visit Pick and Pay at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I don't shop at Pick and Pay. I shop at Spot. But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that there's got to be some sort of very clear understanding.
Absolutely. And
then it'll work. Because when I go online and I need to now all of a sudden send out a media release and my person is at home putting that together, we've got to get it out at 11 o'clock.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And I might get a call at 8 o'clock to put it out at 11 o'clock. So then, if I can't get hold of them, we're under severe pressure.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but I think things have changed. We're seeing it. We have a problem here also with our electricity problem. Now to go on to electric cars is not going to be the best thing.
No.
Because I
If
was
we
at,
don't have
I was
diesel
at,
to run hills,
I was at
we don't
Black
run
Brick
our
over the
cars.
road, and I saw the entire mini power charge section for all mini miners. It was there, and the lady came down to get her car, and she realised that there had been load shedding, and the car wasn't charged. So I think that's something that we've got to bear in mind, and those are the challenges that I'm talking about. But we do definitely have to start looking after the environment and understanding that we've got to save the world.
And what's the future for BLD?
Well, the BLD Group is in a transitioning stage now. First of all, media has changed. The way media are thinking. So, we know that the digital space is such a big space. We know that, the traditional media is to be respected and still will be there, but things are changing. I'm noticing it with all the media houses. They're not as staffed as they were. I'm noticing that consulting is becoming a very big thing above employment. So companies are bringing in consultants to replace permanent employees because it saves them a lot on the medical aid schemes and the pension schemes, and they're just paying a retainer and getting the work done. But we've ventured into entertainment, which is a big thing in South Africa. People like to be entertained, and we believe that there is a scope there to help entertainers who haven't really been looked after and to make sure that they negotiate the best deals for their gigs. So we've gone into that. We still are very involved in the event and media and PR space, but we, like many companies, are rethinking the way we're going to move forward. So we're in that space at the moment. Do I want to work forever? No, I don't, but I can't sit around and do nothing. So, and I have to tell that to my staff because they're always worried about me not being there, and then maybe they won't be there. So, we saying, no, there's always space for you. I will always consult. I will always do it, but maybe I'll take it a little bit easier.
I don't think so.
but I think we're in that transition phase, and we're looking. But there's always a need for expertise to consult to client. Always, in any sphere. You bring in someone that has been there, has got the knowledge, and it helps you really deliver on what your aims and objectives are. So to me, that's where we are. Consultation is such a big part of our business, and to make sure that we can sit in a boardroom and speak to directors and they say, okay, let's make the decision now in other ways. You're never perfect, you're never right, but if you need something...
you're wrong there. My husband says I'm always perfect and I'm always right.
Oh, that's but I do see it because I've seen it. We give it a prime example. We've got a new client, a new corporate that has gone into netball, and I've been in that space for years, 27 years in fact, and they have never dabbled in netball. So when they called me in to address the board and management about netball and the opportunities in netball, because they hadn't made a decision and the investment was going to be substantial. We're talking a multi-million rand investment. They had 3 sporting codes where they could make the decision, and netball was where they wanted to go, but they weren't quite sure if they were going to invest into the sport. So when they spoke to me and asked me questions and asked me to present why is netball a good investment, then I understand there is place for a consultant, whether it's hospitality, whether it's
absolutely independent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt good walking out of that boardroom, knowing that I maybe done justice to netball, but I helped the company understand the decision making better. And so maybe that's where BLD will go. I'm not sure. Because hard work is hard. We did a hockey World Cup. First game was 7 a.m. We had to open the media center at 6. Last game was 10:30 at night. Had to close at 11:30. Then you've still got to go home, unwind, and then you've got to be up at 5. And it's 7 days. I mean, come on. It's tough, man. That's tough, and we are getting old, and we still have to go to the gym and try and move, because that's another problem. As you get older, if you stop moving, you're not going to move at all. That was so funny.
It's been such a pleasure. Bruce Davidson, CEO of BLD Group. You must find him on Facebook. He's wonderful to follow. All his adventures and the things that he does, and just you bring such a brightness to our world. I've really missed you at the media centres because now they're not at all fun.
Well, just make them fun. Ball's in your court, but it's been an absolute pleasure, and I love your work, and keep styling.
Thank you. I'm Janine Preston of Life is a Beach.